Network.
Welcome to ATL Prime Sports, coming to you live from Atlanta, Georgia. The NFC South hit the jackpot in free agency. The Bucs getting the crown jewel, and Tom Brady, the Falcons getting pass rusher Dante Fowler, and the Saints keep Drew Brees on a 2-year, $50 million deal, and the Panthers now a quarterback Teddy Bridgewater. I'm Todd Quarter in for Stephanie Stallworth. JJ, how are you today? Mark's back in the boards in San Francisco, and how's it going, my friend?
It's going well, man. Hanging in there, just watching all this frenzy going around in the NFL free agency.
Man, nobody thought the Falcons would be active in free agency, at least the local media here. Did you think of that?
Yeah, I kind of did. We'll get into that soon.
That's awesome, man. Just to let you guys know, you can follow us on Twitter at ATL Prime Sports. Myself at Quarter Todd, CORDR Todd, JJ at JJ Get You One, Stephanie at ATL Traffic Lady, Mark at Mancini Sports, and you can follow us on the Stable Network. Please call in 678-280-7123, 678-280-7123. Big guest tonight. Bob Rathman, play-by-play Atlanta Hawks for Fox Sports South, teams up with Dominique Wilkins. He'll be on at 8:10. We're going to talk about, obviously, NFL free agency. We're going to have Lou Gamblin on at 8:45 to talk about ACHA, which is college hockey, and also the National Hockey League, and also some NFL free agency. So we've got a big show, JJ. Go ahead and take it away with the headlines, my friend.
Yeah, man. Two major golf events postponed the same month: the PGA Championship and the Masters. Both are looking into rescheduling the events for later in the year. TC, your thoughts?
Man, they're talking about doing it. The only thing is there isn't a lot of dates available. We'll see how it transpires. And we'll see how the world is in October with this coronavirus.
Yeah, in an ESPN.com article, there's a mention of the Masters being played in October. Personally, I hope it does, but I doubt it. Mainly because there is a PGA event scheduled that weekend, the Shiner Hospitals for Children Open. Hopefully the Masters and the PGA can work together, make something happen. Because Georgia was affected big time in the sports economy when this coronavirus hit. Georgia lost the NASCAR race that weekend, the Masters, the Final Four, and Braves opening day was postponed for the foreseeable future. So I'd really like to see at least the Masters get played, bring some of that money back into the Georgia economy. Headline 2, Steve Kerr still plans on coaching in Tokyo. TC, your thoughts real fast.
The odds are long. I mean, that's in July. I mean, the CDC and everybody's thinking this pandemic, these global pandemics, if you look at the history of them, they last an average of 90 days. This one here so far has gone longer than 90 days in China. And look at the devastation it's doing in Italy. So it's probably a long shot. Let's hope and pray that he's right and he does get to be able to coach. I think that would be a good story.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, Steve Kerr, who's voiced his opinion on the coronavirus and NBA taking action. So his thoughts on this and him planning on playing is strictly being a coach. I think it's far-fetched. I don't know if they play. I'm the same way with the Masters. I hope they find a way to play these things. But if you haven't heard, USA basketball assistant coach Steve Kerr said in an ESPN.com article by Nick Friedel that they should plan as if the Olympics will go on. He is right, plan until it is canceled, but I think it will be, Steve, or at least delayed until there's a cure or travel between countries becomes safe without contracting the virus evenly. So I think until that is solved, Olympics are going to be put on a little bit of a hold. Final headline for me, athletes, owners doing their part to help in a time of crisis. wow, they've been out there. They've been doing their part. It's really cool to see sports franchises come together like this. TC, your thoughts?
Well, Anthony Ressler and Jamie Gertz, the owners of the Falcons, they're going to go ahead and pay part-time, their part-time employees. I think that's awesome. I think Matt Ryan also is giving a $100,000 donation to help folks out. So, I mean, this is great that, the NBA players, NFL players, and owners are stepping in to help out people in need during this crisis. I mean, this is what it's all about. Us Americans are supposed to step in and help one another.
Absolutely. My thought, Atlanta Falcons quarterback Matt Ryan, round of applause. He plans to donate $100,000 to the Atlanta Community Food Bank and the Giving Kitchen to assist those in need, including area restaurant workers facing financial hardships, while most restaurants are not allowing dine-in service right now during this corona outbreak. Also, Freddie Freeman did the same thing, 50,000 for each community, and he did 100. He did 25 extra $1,000 for the Salvation Army. Hats off to Freddie Freeman, bringing his total $125,000 donated. That's 200. It's about almost $250,000 right there donated between two Atlanta icons. So honestly, I really love to see these types of stories, TC. These are what sports are all about. This is the good side of sports. You get to see more of these headlines right now. And these guys do make quite a bit of money, but they also love to help out and give back to their community. And you're seeing that right now. So we'll ask Bob Rathburn about that when we get him on momentarily. But it's great to see athletes, the community working together to help one each other out, because right now, once things resume, it's going to be a tight knit community. We're going to need everybody working together. So it's really cool to see this.
Yes, you can call us in at 678-280-7123. Call the show at 678-280-7123. Waiting for Atlanta Hawks play-by-play broadcaster Bob Rathburn of Fox Sports South, who teams up with Dominique Wilkins to bring us Hawks basketball games. And JJ, let's talk a little Hawks before Bob comes on the show here in about 3 minutes. If we can, if and when this season does resume, this is a team that defensively has been a disaster this season. And, we're going to ask Bob, with the addition of getting Dwayne Dedmon back and also acquiring Clint Capella, who can't play until next year, from the Rockets for interior scoring. Let's hope this helps the defense.
Yeah, you got to hope it helps the defensive side of the basketball. The Hawks have only won 20 games. They're in the top 4 for the lottery pick here in the upcoming draft. We'll see what happens with that. Their season was really kind of halted out the gate with injuries and suspensions to John Collins, injuries to Kevin Huerter. Trae Young missed a couple games right off the bat with a couple nights with an ankle injury. But overall, this team looks promising for next year. You had mentioned the addition of Clint Capella. Hopefully, they can learn how to play some defense with Clint Capella. Hopefully, they can play a couple games this year and get that gel that they need. But we'll see what happens going down the line. We'll talk about it with Bob Rathburn here and see what comes of the Atlanta Hawks.
Well, JJ, you mentioned the defense needs improvement. We mentioned the two-man tandem of Trae Young and John Collins. But to me, next season is going to be critical for the rookies, Cam Reddish and DeAndre Hunter, to be able to get better. And they had a good start this season, but they're going to have to make vast improvements next year in order for the team to make the playoffs and be a contender.
Vast improvements. You're exactly right about that. And again, I'm anxious to talk about Bob with that. He's got the inside track. He'll know what the front office is thinking come draft time, come free agency wise. They've got some money to spend. We'll see if someone else comes in with Clint Capella and improves this team even more.
Well, speaking of improvements, we look at the contributions of Jabari Parker. I mean, this kid averaged around 15 a game, was the third leading scorer on the team. He was a nice addition.
Jabari Parker has been great coming off the bench. You mentioned it, averaging double digits points. He really resurrected his career here in Atlanta, TC. A lot of players have lost respect for him, trying to be too much. He came off the bench here, filled in with the role play, and he did very well. I hate to see the season end. A lot of the reason too, and for Vince Carter, he played his last game against the Knicks, lost, and didn't even know that was his final game. So I really hate. I hate to see it like for players like Vince Carter. That was his last hurrah. Hopefully, we can get this season back at least for a little bit of the regular season, so we can have a
that's a great point, JJ, about Vince Carter. It would be absolutely a shame if that was his last game. You're talking a guy that's played 20 years in the NBA. I mean, how many guys do that? You can put him on two hands, maybe. And to play as well as he's played this year at his age or in the early 40s, to me, that's incredible. That really is incredible.
Well, no one's played as long as Vince Carter. He stands alone. I think 23 seasons total. I
mean, when you look at Vince Carter coming out of North Carolina, he was this high flying, jumping, slam, dunking, just an absolute spectacular player. And watched his game evolve as seasons went along, and he became a better defender and a better passer and a little better rebounder as his career came on, and he was even a better shooter. I mean, this guy has played forever. I mean, forever. And for him to be able to do it in his early 40s, that to me is incredible. And also an excellent ambassador for the game, JJ. An excellent ambassador at 43 years old, still doing what he's doing. I mean, I'm 43 years old. I'd like to average about 5 points a game in the NBA, come off the bench, and it gives some great tutorship to Trae Young and John Collins and Hunter and Reddish and the rest of the game. He was a big-time leader.
Big-time leader. I believe he's the last player in the NBA to play for Coach Dean Smith at North Carolina. One of the guys who'll still point to you on an assist. Really mentioned him being an ambassador for the game. What a great person on and off the court. You never really see anything in the news about Vince Carter. So I really hate to see his season end just like that. Like I said, with him not even knowing that was the last game that would have been played in his career. So that's got to be a weird feeling, a weird ending to the career. Maybe he'll come back next year and do a one game and done sign off.
24 years in the league, JJ. If he comes back, you're really something special when every opposing arena does a tribute to you before each game. They give him gifts. They give him applause. They do a lot for him. So, this is awesome. And hey, you can't do any better than he's done.
No, you really can't. It's really going to be interesting to see how the coronavirus plays out, how the NBA, how sports in general play out. Will the season go on? Will there be playoffs? Will there be regular season? These are all going to be questions that are going to be asked on a daily basis, on a minute-to-minute basis.
Well, we're waiting for play-by-play Fox Sports South Bob Rathman, who teams up with Dominique Wilkins to call the Atlanta Hawks games. He does a wonderful job. He'll, when Bob does a game, even if the Hawks are playing poorly, that's a mark of an excellent broadcaster, somebody who's still into it. And not only does he look for the positive during the broadcast, but he'll definitely highlight the negative. If the team's playing bad defense, he will not hesitate at all to let his audience know.
Yeah,
he definitely he'll let his audience know. So, I mean, he's as good as anybody at that. And he'll also come out with the positives of what the club has done so he's not totally beating him up during the broadcast. And the way he works with Dominique Wilkins, they have a lot of they definitely have a lot of chemistry together.
A lot of chemistry, a lot of time on there. Our next guest, Bob Rathbun, will be joining us shortly. Looking forward to hearing from him, what he's got to say.
And JJ, excuse me, he's in now. Let's go ahead and welcome Bob Rathbun, the play-by-play of the Atlanta Hawks on Fox Sports South. Teams up with Dominique Wilkins, does a tremendous honor in calling the Hawks games. Sir, welcome to ATL Prime Sports, and thank you for joining us this evening.
It's my pleasure. How are you all tonight?
Well, despite the coronavirus and everything and trying to self-quarantine yourself, we're trying to keep a positive attitude each and every day towards life.
Well, that's good. I think we all are. And thank goodness we still have sports to talk about to take our minds off of it for a few minutes.
That's right. We want to take our minds off it. And, you know, let's go through the positives since we want to take our mind off it first. Talk about the two-man tandem of Trae Young and John Collins for the Hawks this season. I think they need another guy, a three-man tandem, to become a serious NBA contender. Talk about their play this season, please.
Well, that third man is already here. He's Cam Reddish. He's a guy that's got stardom written all over him, and he is going to have a magnificent NBA career. But Trae and John have something special going. They clicked last year. They clicked again this year. There's not too many pick-and-roll tandems as good as those two, no doubt. And I think Cam is going to join them as a real cornerstone going forward.
You're listening to Bob Rathbun, play-by-play voice of the Atlanta Hawks. Bob, it's good to have you back on. It's been a while since we've talked to you, since we were over at WATB. What are some of the players doing during this hiatus to stay loose, and what are they doing? How are they staying loose? What are the plans? Have you heard anything about returning, anything like that?
Well, I believe that the guys had been going in individually to Emory's workout center that we have. But I think that has been stopped now. Not that there's a problem, but I believe that in an overabundance of caution, the Hawks have closed that facility. So I would suspect the guys are working out on their own. Almost all of them have workout equipment and facilities where they live. It's not the same, of course, but these guys are professional athletes. They know how to train. They know the discipline. They know what to do. It's just a matter of going out doing it. And then in time, when the restrictions are lifted, they'll be back together again to practice and get ready for what we all hope will be the resumption of the season. You're listening to Bob Rathbun of ATL Prime Sports. Speaking of getting back into shape and acquiring folks, they got Dwayne Dedman back, who's going to help in the interior scoring, and has since he's been brought back, and also acquiring Clint Capella from the Rockets. This, to me, is a huge move for the Hawks for next season. How's Clint doing? Well, last I heard, and we haven't heard anything in a week. We played a week ago tonight, as you know. Everything is progressing well. He's trying to overcome 2 injuries in his right foot. He's got plantar fascia, and that worked its way into a bone spur in his right heel. So he's overcoming that. And once he is cleared to work out and play, then we hope to have him back. Now, what this delay may mean, if we get back to playing regular season games, is that we're going to get a really good look at Clint, and he will have been cleared to total health by the time we resume the season. So it's sort of a blessing in disguise in a way for some of these injured players around the league. They can come back and rejoin their teams and get in some useful games. I mean, the Hawks are so excited to welcome Clint and get him on the floor just to give us a little preview of how this matchup with John Collins will work going forward.
Listening to Bob Rathbun, play-by-play voice of the Atlanta Hawks and author of his book. It's right here. It's the author of The Fast Forward Winner. That's it. There it is. I had it in my notes there. You're listening to Bob Rathburn here. Bob, what some good has come out of this? We heard Freddie Freeman and Matt Ryan donate a couple $250,000 between the two of them to the local Atlanta restaurants. What are some of the Hawks organization members and players doing to help out in this time of need? Have you heard anything?
Yes, the owner of the Hawks, Tony Ressler, and his wife, Jamie Gertz, have already announced, and they did this the first day of the suspension, that they would be paying all of the part-time employees that work game nights. They won't lose a penny of income. They will be paid for the games as if they were played. The Hawks have announced that they are, this weekend, I believe, putting a food bank together to distribute food to those needy in our city that are in need of good, healthy meals. That's happening. Players have donated monies of their own to different charities and different things. So they are very community conscious and aware, very proud of them.
Yeah, that's absolutely wonderful. I love hearing those stories around the Atlanta area about this. It's something coming. It's good coming out of bad.
No question. And that's what happens when you have disasters like this, you know, whether it's a hurricane or a tornado or a virus or whatever the case may be. We huddle up, take care of our fellow human beings in our community. And a lot of people step forward, and a lot of people that, don't have celebrity status, still stepping forward to help out, making volunteer runs, helping those in need. So it's great. It's heartwarming, and this will continue for the weeks to come.
Bob, when I think of the Atlanta Hawks and I think of the owners, I think of them as wonderful people, but I got to go back in time with Jamie Gertz, who was a great actress. And I mean, her scene in Seinfeld
is a great actor.
Currently still, yes, sir, you're correct.
Oh, yes, she's still working. Yeah.
But I go back in time to Seinfeld, and I go back to the episode of The Stall, and, we're talking about, everybody running to the stores to try to get the toilet paper, and then all I can think of is The Stall, and she told Julia Dreyfus she didn't have a square to spare. And right now in Atlanta, there is not a square to spare.
And we have reminded Jamie of that scene since this suspension has kicked in, to watch this unbelievable, nonsensical hoarding that's going on. People, calm down. The stores are going to be open. The supplies are going to be there. Relax.
Agreed.
But we have kidded her for the last week about that.
I just, every time when I think of her, I think of that line, and I just thought it was a classic. And with her and Julia going back and forth in the stall, I still laugh about it today. And when I need a laugh in these particular times, I'll bring it up on YouTube just to crack up.
Yeah, it's great. Great stuff.
It is great stuff. You know what? Now we have to go to a little more serious stuff. All these players are testing positive for coronavirus, and we know all about Kevin Durant. We know a lot of the players are being tested. We know the Lakers were tested today, and with the NBA, there's three possibilities. A, unfortunately, they could cancel the season. B, they could start the season without fans. C, they could start the season with fans. Start it with the end of the regular season, then the playoffs, or they could have fans with no end of the regular season and just playoffs. And with arena availability, some arenas share NHL with other NHL franchises. What is your guess at this particular moment what the NBA will do?
I think we're coming back. I have felt that from day one. I don't think there's any reason not to. But I do think that what has to change is the thinking that's going into this. We can play whenever we want to play. If we pick this up the 1st of June, we pick it up the 1st of June. If we want to play until the end of August, we'll play to the end of August. It's just not, we've got one thing that this pandemic is showing us in all aspects of our lives is that we have to think differently. We've got to think outside the box. We can't use the same thinking that got us here to get us out of this. We've got to think differently. And that's from government to business to our personal lives to the way we go about our business. It's going to change. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Sports is so important. Many people would find it, I think, maybe trivial to what the country's going through. There are so many people hurting right now. And that's not to diminish that whatsoever. But sports is important because of the way we began our conversation tonight. It is something to take our mind off of it. You know, many of you that are listening weren't old enough to remember World War II. But our country was fighting a world war on 2 different fronts. And the one constant that kept a lot of those who were left here in the country behind, kept them going, was baseball. And it was so important that the president at the time had a decree that the games would go on because it gave the nation something to look forward to. It gave them a chance to relax and look at a game and keep up with the pennant races, et cetera. So it was very important. And I think, to your point about the NBA restarting, the same would be true with this. If we came back in the middle of May or the end of May or beginning of June, and we had to play games without fans in the stands, I think that would be fine. To get through, to provide TV programming, to let our fans watch the games, I think it would be great. When the time comes that fans can come back into the arena, that's great too. Have our playoffs, have our off season, and then figure out when to start the 2021 season. But all that can be worked out. There's a lot of smart people working on this, a lot smarter than me, and they will come to these conclusions. But I think we're going to come back. I think we're going to do everything we can to come back. And I think it's important that all the sports get going again, even if they're postponed. Hey, look, the Kentucky Derby is going to be held in September. Great. The Masters is going to be held in September. Great. We'll be back, and we'll be back stronger than we were before.
You're listening to Bob Rathman here on ATL Prime Sports. Looking forward to next year if the season doesn't resume. I hope it does. I think it will too, Bob. What will this Atlanta Hawks team look like next season?
Well, it's going to pretty much look like this one. I mean, you've got your core group with Capella, Collins, Reddish, Hunter, Trey, Kevin. You know, those are the 6 guys that you got, 7 guys you got going forward. And it will the change you'll see, I think, in the Hawks is going to be on the bench. They've got to retool this bench. You know, Vince is retiring, et cetera. Some of these guys won't be with us. So getting the bench squared away with veterans to help these young guys come along. But in terms of the starting unit, what you see with the addition of Capella, this is it going forward.
You're listening to Bob Rathburn, play-by-play Atlanta Hawks on Fox Sports South. He's with Dominique Wilkins. One last question, then we got to go. Sir, tell us what it's like to work with Dominique Wilkins, the human highlight film, one of my favorite NBA players ever.
It is a delight each and every night to be able to sit with Neek, listen to his great stories, and he's got a million of them. Just great stuff. I've had the chance to watch him as a high school player, college and pro, and now sitting next to him every night. It would be like the greatest sports party that you could ever have in your house. To invite Neek and let him tell stories and watch games with him. I can't think of anything more fun, to be honest.
Sir, thank you so much for coming on with us. You know, you're the best. I mentioned before you came on, even when the Hawks are losing, you make it really entertaining. You not only talk about the negative, they're not playing well on defense, and you've said that this season plenty of times, but you also talk about the positive and how the organization is building the team into a winner. And I want to thank you so much for coming on this evening. It was a pleasure, and you're welcome anytime.
Well, thank you. I appreciate being with you.
All right. That was Bob Rathburn, Atlanta Hawks play-by-play. One of the best in the business, joins with Dominique Wilkins on Fox Sports South. JJ, let's go ahead and take a couple of calls before we go to our next topic real quick. We've got Lou on the line in New Jersey. Lou, how are you today?
As well as it can be, JJ.
What did he say?
As well as I can.
Up there, man.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Lou, say it one more time. Welcome to the show. I didn't hear you.
As well as I can hold up.
Yeah, you know what? It is tough out there. JJ, you're right.
Yeah.
Lou, you're right. We're trying to have a positive attitude. Bob, ask somebody next time at the grocery store, if there's no toilet paper, can they spare a square at their house? Ask them if it's 2-ply. Do something, man. I mean, that was up there in New York. So we need that. We need some humor in life because, believe me, there's a lot of depressing things to go on. What's on your mind, Lou?
Yeah, like, you know, when you were saying how Mr. Rathburn saying how they think they're gonna come back, you know, I really don't see it coming back this year at all. I really don't. I mean, they're gonna be out of shape they're gonna be out of shape first of all. It would take them too long to get back in the camp. I mean, and train condition, because this thing is gonna go until at least the summer anyway, and it's still gonna be too dangerous for them to come back.
I disagree with you, Lou, respectfully. I do agree with Bob. They can play anytime they want, can't they, JJ?
Yeah, I think it's a matter of how far they want to delay this thing, how far they want to delay the NBA Finals, and how far they're willing to chop off the next season to save some of this season. So those are the questions that are going to be answered, and we'll find out soon enough. Once it looks like I was reading a CNN article. It looks like China is starting to kind of plateau off after about 3 months. So it looks like April, May, June, maybe July, this thing will plateau off and we'll be able to resume normal daily activities with
like to see that.
regards of large crowds and everything like that. I don't know for sure, but I do think it eventually will get played, depending on how many regular season games left. I don't know, but I do think some games will be played at some point this season.
So
I do too.
The regular season? They're going to go finish the regular season, then go to the playoffs, or just go right to the playoffs?
They may go right to the playoffs. I personally think that would probably be the best move to try and retain it. And honestly, I wouldn't even do a normal playoffs. I would do it, it sounds bad, but I would do a lesser playoffs. Maybe 6 teams from each conference make it in basketball, but I don't know. I'm not the expert. I would not want to be in that conversation, but playoff basketball is something.
Well, gentlemen,
like
if you don't mind me saying,
as Bob said, it'd be a great distraction to come back from all this.
Well, gentlemen, if you don't mind me saying, it is all about the money. And, you know, and speaking of money, the NBA is raising its credit line as much as $550 million to raise cash flow to increase their credit line to $2 billion. What does one's credit line have to be to get to that? How scary is it for a professional sports league to be up against it financially, potentially down the line? And that's not even including that's not only including the NBA, but the NHL, the NFL, Major League Baseball, with all its guaranteed contracts in each sport. I'm telling you right now, you know, when they come back, I don't think they're playing abbreviated playoffs. I think they'll abbreviate the next season. It's about the money. The playoffs is more money. And I think that's what they'll do. Lou, we got to go. Thank you so much. Right. We're up against it. Tell me your show real quick.
Okay, it's the I Hate Creighton Fan Club show. No, the Enhanced Sports Show. East Coast time, 5 to 7 Saturday. Yes, there will be a show this weekend. If you got time between 5 and 7 Eastern, call 512-543-4662. Once again, 512-543-4662.
Lou, thank you so much, and thank you for joining ATL Prime Sports. You're a great friend of the show. Stay safe, my friend. You know what we'll do? We'll go ahead and wait on the next caller. JJ, let's go to the next subject real quick. This is near and dear to your heart, my friend. I know it is. NFL free agency period has started. You know, we all know we're the big name free agents. They've signed. The NFC South is the star of the show. And you know what? We're going to find out where the other players land. We'll talk about that in a minute. But let's talk about the AFC South. You got to start with Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Falcons' rival.
Well, I mean, you got to start there. The 6-time champion, Tom Brady, the 28-3 signs are going to come out, plays them twice a year. Primetime games in the NFC South just got a lot better. Let's face it, this guy's going to bring I mentioned it 2 weeks ago. I mentioned it last week. People thought I was crazy. I really kind of thought this was going to happen. I should have placed a bet on it.
You should have, man. You'd have been rich. Nobody was really talking about Tampa Bay except for the last 48 hours ago.
The fact I called this is simply because I put 2 and 2 together. I said, Tom Brady wants an elite wide receiver. Well, guess what, folks? Not only does he have 2,000-yard receivers down there, he's got a guy in talks right now. If he gets reinstated, Antonio Brown would be a high considerate for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers roster as well. So you're talking about guys who could have Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and if Antonio Brown, these rumors are true and he can get reinstated and plays with Tom Brady, you're talking about 3 quality receivers. They'll draft a running back. They'll get some defensive back help. And they got a decent defensive line. This would be a fun team to watch. I said it on social media. I think they're the favorites to win the NFC right now.
Wow, you know what? You were right on the Bucs, no doubt about it, with Tom Brady. Are they the favorite? I'm not so sure. They would like to add a running back. We'll see if they add it in the draft. They'd like to add an offensive tackle. I don't know about Antonio Brown. We've got enough problems in the world right now. And Antonio Brown, I can't even wrap my head around that. I'm glad you mentioned it, but I can't wrap my head around it. Let's go to our local team, the Atlanta Falcons. They lose Devontae Freeman. They lose Hooper. They lose Trufant. They lose Sombrero on the offensive line. They lose another tight end in Luke Steckler. Okay. But they add Aiden Hurst at tight end. Dante Fowler, the pass rusher. You and I think that is a huge move. They keep and sign Tyler Davidson, the defensive tackle, who you and I said played extremely well down the stretch last year. Absolutely. And they kept fullback Keith Smith. And JJ, he's a great blocker for the next tailback that's coming in here. Why don't you tell us who you think it is?
Well, with the CBA falling in place the exact way that it did, but we'll get into the Falcons draft needs down the road.
Yeah. Just tell me who you think the guy is. You've been dying all day to say it. Just do it.
The DeAndre Swift. It'd be a Swift move.
And where did he go to school, JJ?
He's a dog. He's a Georgia Bulldog, everybody.
That's right.
We'll talk more about that in our next topic, and Falcons draft needs.
Yeah, I just wanted to get that in, man. I knew you've been dying to say it. Yeah, go ahead and let's talk about
staying in the same division. You could talk about Teddy Bridgewater and what he did, filling in for Drew Brees. 70% completion percentage in his 5 starts. 22-12 as a career starter, 89.5 rating as a starter. And he signs a 3-year, $63 million deal in Charlotte and Carolina. Looks like it's the end of the Cam Newton era up there. Now, technically, he's still part of that team. So technically, you have 3 MVPs in the division right now. Now, once Cam Newton leaves, obviously, you only have 2. But Bridgewater is going to be that team's quarterback. You got Christian McCaffrey up there. He can dink it and dunk it to him. We'll see what happens with them, but it looks like they're trying to rebuild around Teddy Bridgewater. That's an interesting free agency move in the NFC South.
Okay, and then since we're on the subject, go back to the Falcons for a second on their additions. Why don't we just go ahead and go to the Saints? They signed Drew Brees to additional 2 years at $25 million a season. So not only are the Falcons they're going to have Matt Ryan, the Panthers you mentioned with Bridgewater. Now Tom Brady's in Tampa. Then you have Drew Brees with the Saints, and also the Saints added an excellent cornerback today and slash safety in Malcolm Jenkins, a really good football player. So the Saints did a great job. Each team in the NFC South did a great job. Let's talk about the additions of Hayden Hurst at tight end and Dante Fowler at pass rusher. JJ, those are huge.
Those are absolutely huge. The acquisition of Hayden Hurst via the trade, you needed a tight end. You still have another second-round pick, so you got a tight end. Basically, you spent a second-round pick on him. Hayden Hurst backed up Mark Andrews. He's great when he got his opportunities. 30 receptions, 2 touchdowns last year. Imagine what we can do with 50 or 60 receptions. That number should increase to 7, 8 touchdowns. I'm assuming if he gets plenty of touches and in the red zone, he runs great routes. He'll put his hand in the dirt better and protect Matt Ryan and increase that zone run scheme, hopefully for who I think is DeAndre Swift. But again, that's something else. Hayden Hurst is a great player. Dante Fowler, even better signing. Why? The guy came off a career of the year last year, 11.5 sacks in L.A., had 3 years in Jacksonville, first-round draft pick by Jacksonville, had some trouble there, got a little hurt. Now he's here. Last year, 40 solo tackles. He forced 2 fumbles. And guess what? He gets to reunite with his old Florida defensive line coach Coach Dan Quinn in the A.
Should be fun, man. Should be a lot of fun, shouldn't it?
3 years, $48 million. That's about all the money the Falcons had right there. So you're definitely going to have to look for.
I could have a lot of fun with 3 years and $48 million. Sounds like a lot of fun. Like I said, this is a big addition for the Falcons. You mentioned Hayden Hurst, the tight end. He played his ball at South Carolina in the Southeastern Conference. So I know you've watched him play against your Dogs. And, the only reason I mentioned DeAndre Swift, I kind of got ahead of myself is I just wanted you to, I just wanted you to talk about that and give the folks a bone, what we're going to talk about later, an actual dog bone that we're going to talk about later. So, this Falcons signing the free agent we mentioned earlier, they're up against the cap. The local writers didn't think they would sign somebody. You and I actually did, because that's what Thomas Dimitroff does. And JJ, let me pose a question to you. Do you think they'll take that second-round pick, get rid of it, and move up to go in the first round to get an extra defensive end maybe if they draft Swift?
It wouldn't surprise me. Thomas Dimitroff loves to move around on draft day. If he gets the running back he wants and he wants to move up and who knows, maybe he sacrifices the rest of the draft and tries to get AJ Espinoza and Swift in the same round. Who knows what happens? It's a very, very good possibility. He is one of the one GMs that moves in the first round a lot. I mentioned the years he did it. It's like five or 6 or 7 years he's moved back up into the first round or moved up in the first round in general. So don't take it away from him. You're exactly right about that. It wouldn't surprise me if he moved up in the draft to get the guy he wants.
Well, I just, give, as you told me off the air, give that dog DeAndre Swift a bone. And his bone would be the 16th pick in the first round of the draft. And maybe, Dimitroff moves up. We'll talk a little about that further. We're joined by Lou Gammon, the play-by-play voice of the Aquinas College hockey up in the ACHA. Aquinas College is up in mid-southeast Michigan, if you're not familiar with it. He also does a lot of high school football up there, and he's also a national ACHA broadcaster as myself. We know the tournament got canceled this year. Lou, welcome to the show. I'm sorry you're not in Dallas doing the tournament.
Todd, thank you for having me on the show. It's always a pleasure. Yeah, it's tough times. We're all kind of dealing with it. But yeah, we got to move on. It's all going to get better. But yeah, I feel bad for the seniors and that this could be their last chance. And, the teams that I also feel bad for are the ones that are going there for the first time, like Embry-Riddle, a school down in your neck of the woods, down in Daytona, Florida, and, a Dakota school out of North Dakota. These teams that have never been there before. And now it's a tough break, but, we're all a part of it right now. We're all trying to muckler through it,
We are. And we mentioned last night, it was on your show, the Captain Lou Extravaganza. You can listen to that now. I think you've got a show tomorrow at 1:00, correct?
Yeah, I'm going to do an extra show tomorrow at 1:00 since we've got some free time, and always a great time talking sports. We might have to corral you for a few minutes tomorrow afternoon.
You can corral me anytime, my friend. The hockey, we talked about it last night on your show, the seniors. That this was the seniors potentially. It isn't potentially. It is their last game. So, is the ACHA going to do what the NCAA did by giving these seniors an extra year of eligibility for the kids that haven't finished school?
Well, I've got a couple of emails and a phone call out on that I sent out today. As a matter of fact, I haven't heard anything on that. I think it'd be a great idea. They're a whole different governing body than the NCAA and the NAIA, but they try to go along the same guidelines. So I don't know. That's again, I'm waiting to hear back on that. I know that they were supposed to have their their year-end meetings they always have down in Naples, Florida, but that too has been canceled. So everything is up in the air. I know the press release that they gave was that everything was going to be put off until 2021. So that I haven't heard on, but I'm still trying to find that out.
Well, it would be the right thing to do because there are kids that need to come back and finish, and they can play some hockey while they're doing it. This year's tournament in Dallas would have been spectacular. Last year's was really spectacular. I wouldn't have been able to go this year for health reasons, but I was so sad for the rest of you that couldn't go. Now we're all just looking forward to next year to go to Boston. And I'm telling you what, I've got to go to TD Garden to watch the best line in the NHL with that Pasternak line and company. That's as good as it gets, huh, Lou?
Oh, 100%. They're exciting to watch. It reminds me a lot of the Gretzky line of the late 80s. And, they're so potent, and they are indeed a joy to watch. I hope that with all of this, everything gets resolved in the next couple of months. And you and I talked about it last night. It would be fun to even have it delayed so we could watch some Stanley Cup playoffs in August when there really isn't anything to watch but third-string NFL football players. So for us sports junkies, I think it would be fantastic.
Oh, I am a junkie. I know JJ's a junkie and Breck's a junkie. Doing the board out there in San Francisco. We're all junkies waiting for the jump to come back. And, we talked to Bob Rathman about Hawks basketball coming back and the NBA coming back. And he said, absolutely it is. We can play anytime. Do you think the NHL can play anytime? I know you do.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. I think you and I talked about a couple of different scenarios where they could possibly play 75 games or, do some type of a play-in tournament to have all the teams involved and then play a 2 out of 3 or a 1-game scenario with the bottom 16 just to get everybody a chance to do it. I honestly think the more I've thought about it in the last couple of days, I could see where it would start back up the end of June and it could play right until Labor Day and then possibly the middle of September. Give the teams a month off or so and then maybe start the season back up like what you suggested last night, maybe a 75-game season the following year. But there is no normal right now, Tom. You know that with everything. I mean, just finding out that the French Open, for example, is going to be played in September. The Kentucky Derby, September 5th. The Masters and the PGA could be in the summer. It's going to be a crazy, interesting time. The only thing that's somewhat normal right now is football.
Football is very normal, Lou. I was actually about to ask you about the free agency frenzy that's been going on, especially in the NFC South. I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are the favorites in the NFC South / the NFC right now. What do you think about that?
Well, I think so too. And I've got kind of a take that I don't know if a lot of people will agree with me. I think that with Tom Brady, the reason he went there is because I think that's the best chance he had to get to the Super Bowl, is to go with Tampa Bay, because, I don't know. There's a lot of unknown with your Falcons and the Saints. I honestly think the Saints have reached their peak. I know Drew Brees is a heck of a quarterback. He's a Hall of Famer, no doubt. But I think they may have reached their peak. In Carolina, who knows? And I got to ask you guys, just before I came on, I got my alert on the phone that the Lions just signed Desmond Trufant for 2 years.
Breaking news.
And he's an upgrade, but what worries me about that is now Detroit's going to make Darius Slay expendable either via trade or whatnot. So I'm excited about getting Trufant, but I'm also worried that, maybe his best days are behind him.
Very well could be. Trufant looked a little suspect towards the end of the season. Beginning of the season, he looked pretty good. But end of the season, it was Devontae KZ and Isaiah Oliver taking care of the reins down the stretch. So I think that's what Atlanta's thought. They said, hey, we're going to go with the youth and the inexperience to try and coach him up. Let this guy go, open up a freeway for that Dante Fowler trade signing, which I think is a very big move as well. What do you think of some other key free agent signings that well, of course, they'll take place when the new year starts, but when the league new year starts. But what are some other signings that you think are pretty big time?
Well, I have to tell you, first of all, a couple of the biggest moves I've seen that are head scratchers are the trades that were made. Hopkins getting traded to Atlanta. I beg your pardon, Arizona or whatever. The haul that I don't see what they see in David Johnson. Stephon Diggs going to Buffalo. Giving up a first round pick and 3 other picks for him. I think Minnesota. I think they committed a crime of theft getting that much out of Buffalo. Minnesota signing Kirk Cousins to that extension to me was crazy. Some of the signings that Detroit made here locally, I'm kind of up in the air about. I still think they're a middle of the road team at best. I like the signing Indianapolis made, getting the quarterback. God, his name's
Philip Rivers.
Yeah,
Philip Rivers.
Yeah, Philip Rivers. I like it.
I love it.
He's got a line that can block for him, and he's got some weapons there. Plus, he doesn't have to rely on Eric Ebron there because he's going to be gone old board. So, I like that. Cleveland, I thought, made some interesting signings, but, the enigma there is their quarterback. I mean, you don't know what he's going to do from one game to the next. And Dallas, I thought, made some interesting signings. McCoy might be all right with them, but they still have a $40 million quarterback yet to sign. And I don't know if they can get anybody else that will send them over the top.
I agree. I tell you another move I thought was really interesting, Lou, was Las Vegas bringing in Marcus Mariota. You heard all the praise from John Gruden saying, hey, Derek Carr's my guy, quarterback corner guy. And then he goes ahead and brings in Marcus Mariota. So I think that was not necessarily head scratching, but it definitely shows you John Gruden's cards a little bit.
Well, I was a little surprised by that move too. I think they probably figured out they weren't going to get Tom Brady, so they had to do something. And it's funny, and not only that, they signed the tight end from Dallas, another Monday Night Football prodigy,
Jason
just
Witten.
like Gruden.
I just
Yeah,
thought
Jason
about
Witten.
that.
So who's next to sign from them? Are they going to dig Booger McFarland out of retirement to play for him, or what? You know, I mean, Oakland. You never know with the Raiders anymore. I know they want to make a splash going to Vegas, but I think you want to know the surprising thing with me was the amount of money that Carolina gave Teddy Bridgewater. Where is Cam going to go? Now we know he's not going to Chicago because Foles is going there.
Yeah.
I mean, where's Cam? I still think Cam Newton's got a couple good years left. You know, is he going to L.A. to be with the Chargers? Or, I mean, could you see him with Bill Belichick?
No, not a chance. Not a chance.
What would be interesting to see Cam Newton in is as a Cleveland Brown. Now, I know we have Baker Mayfield there, but that, to me, and I know it's not going to happen, but that would be interesting to see. The Cleveland Browns with Odell Beckham Jr., Cam Newton, Jarvis Landry, that, to me, would make them a more competitive team than Baker Mayfield. But I know that's not going to happen.
Guys, I got a question for you guys. Now, with Tom Brady leaving the AFC East, and I said this on my show this afternoon, he's going there. All right, tell me in all honesty, okay, he's gone from New England, and they right now just have Stidham. You know, they might get Dalton, who knows. But who really is leaps and bounds better than the Patriots in that division that really scares you? And that's where I think that New England still has a shot to win that division even without Brady. It may be a 9-7 team, but does Miami really scare you with Rosen? I mean, Sam Darnold, to me, hasn't proven anything yet. And, you know, Josh Allen, yeah, is a decent quarterback, but they always seem to find ways to lose in Buffalo. And so, to me, that division is still New England's, and if there's nobody really head and shoulders better than them.
I agree with you. I really do. I don't think there's anybody better than New England in the AFC East. You could really call it the least. They won that division 10 years in a row, 11 years in a row.
Yeah.
It looks to be much the same. But what's really going to be fun to see is who wins the referees in the Belichick-Brady divorce. Do you know who won the referees, Lou?
Good question. Good
Who got the referees? Did Tampa Bay get those, or did Belichick keep those in New England?
I know. And you know, there's one other thing that I'm, you know, with this thing, you go back to Houston real quick. This latest development that was brought up by Michael Irvin about, you know, this idea that he told Hopkins that he had too many baby mamas at the practice facility, and he reminded him of Aaron Hernandez. I mean, if that's true, how can Bill O'Brien keep his job? I mean,
I'll tell you how he can keep his job, if you don't mind me saying. He's the head coach.
Yeah.
He's the GM. He runs the show. The only guy that can fire him is the owner. He's the head of football operations. He's running the show. And to be fair, Bill O'Brien hasn't came on to, you know, any of the shows to defend himself. And DeAndre Hopkins said on Twitter today, guys, that was blown completely out of proportion. So he's trying to diet down. So I think it'll just go away.
Well, I agree with you too. And I was just going to say, on the other end of the coin, you got to look who started that rumor, and that's Michael Irvin, who to me, you know, is the biggest horses. You know what? He's, you know, all the stuff he got away with Dallas, and, you know, and he bleeds Dallas blue. And I get that you're going to defend the Cowboys, but he's been fired from ESPN and walking that thin line with the NFL Network. And he's had that happen to him for a reason. But I just look at that, and sometimes, though, when you hear stuff like that, you know what they say, where there's smoke, there might be a little bit of fire.
Hey, JJ and Lou, can I answer? JJ and Lou, I've got to answer the question. I'm going to stun you who I'm going to pick to win the division. I thought about it long and hard today. I'm going with the Miami Dolphins. I'm going to go with Brian Flores and company. They're going to draft Tua, is what I think. And, he'll give Fitzpatrick or Fitzmagic, whatever you want to call him, a run for his money at the quarterback position. Maybe if he starts, it would be wild. If he didn't, maybe he starts halfway through the season. He could, they could end up having the best quarterback tandem in the division. And to me, the quarterback
Buffalo will win that division, I think.
I disagree, but I respectfully disagree. That's why I would pick the Dolphins. Plus, they just picked up Eldon Roberts. He's the third former Patriots player they picked up. Kyle Van Noy, Ted Karras. The Dolphins are really aggressive in free agency, and they're really going for it. They added guard Eric Flowers. So, the Dolphins are really doing their interior of their offensive line. And their defense is pretty good. They boosted the defense with Byron Jones. So, I actually think the Dolphins are the team to beat in this division, Luke, and JJ.
Well, I got to tell you, JJ, I got to lean your way. Buffalo, to me, I like their weapons on offense. Their defense is starting to come around. But my heart is saying, just for fodder for guys like you and me to talk about all year, to quote Ric Flair, to be the man, you got to beat the man. And to me, I'm going with New England because I want to be able to talk about, like you just said a little while ago, who's better between the two, him or Brady. And I want New England just to win for that reason. But I'd love the offensive weapons on Buffalo. I just think, I don't know. I'm leaning that way. And, I do like what Miami's doing, but I'm going with New England. I'll be the odd man out on that one.
Ooh, wow, we're all different.
You know what? That's great. You've got New England. JJ is Buffalo. I have Miami. Lou, thanks so much for coming on the show. You've been a good friend of mine for the last year plus. I really appreciate it. We've had a lot of conversations about life and hockey and et cetera. And, I just really appreciate you coming on. And, we'll see. I'm going to go with Brian Flores because I think he's going to be the next Belichick to take over that division. That's just my gut feeling. Lou, before you go, tell us about your show, when it normally is on, and when you're on tomorrow, and how they can listen, and then we'll go to our callers.
All right. Thanks, Todd. I appreciate all the kind words, and the same goes to you guys. It's always a blast coming on your show. I'm on Tuesday nights normally from 8 until 10 p.m. Eastern time. It's called the Captain Lou Extravaganza. We talk primarily football and hockey with an emphasis on the ACHA. It's on the 12OunceSportsNetwork.com, and you can join us every Tuesday night for that. I will have another bonus show since we're on vacation, so to speak. Tomorrow night, 1 Eastern time, we'll be on for an hour. That's the Captain Lou Extravaganza on the 12OunceSportsNetwork.com.
Lou, thanks again for coming on. Appreciate it. You're welcome anytime, my friend. Stay safe up there in Southeast Michigan.
Thanks, Lou. We appreciate it. Quarantine and chill.
I am. Thank you.
Quarantine and chill. I wonder if you could bottle that up and sell it at the grocery store. But if you did, somebody would ask if they could spare a square or a square to spare a square a bottle. People are fighting over the most ridiculous things. But speaking of some serious stuff, which, it's not that serious, is our show. JJ and I, he's going to join me as much as he can. We're going to do, since we're all self-quarantine here, we're going to have an additional ATL Prime Sports. It's going to be on Tuesday and Thursdays at 4 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will not take any callers. We will have guests, and we will have sports banter. And Breck from San Francisco area will go ahead and run the board for us. And speaking of that, let's go ahead and go to our callers. We've got Wayne from Memphis, who's been holding very patiently. Wayne, welcome to ATL Sports, my friend.
No, listen, it's easy to hold because I get to listen to the show while I'm holding.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. We really appreciate it. What's on your mind?
Well, I tell you, you all covered a lot of subjects, and I'll give you my opinion on them. NBA, what I really think they should do is have an abbreviated remainder of the season and then they've got 30 teams in the league. They could do a single elimination playoff all the way down to the final 2 teams and then do a best of 7. That way every team has a shot.
I wouldn't mind seeing something like that with an event that's a catastrophic event like this. Sports,
Yeah.
we need something like that. So I'd be all for that, Wayne. That'd be very interesting and I believe fun to watch.
Yeah, and as far as the NFL goes, I'm super excited about the NFC South. Lots of great players, teams that are all on the upper echelon, upper level now, and it'll be exciting to see. As far as the vacated spot up there in New England causing some uproar in the AFC East, I'm going to have to go with JJ and pick Miami in there because I think they've got not only the momentum, but I feel like they've got a better attitude than Buffalo does.
JJ picked Buffalo. I picked Miami. So are you going with me?
Okay, yeah, that's what I'm going
you
with.
Go with me. Haha, JJ, I win 2-1.
2-1.
Well,
okay. Hey, Wayne, your predictions hold near and dear to my heart because I'll never forget back on WB when you said the Falcons are going to win out and go to the Super Bowl, and by gum, they sure as hell did. So
yeah, well, listen, last year in the NFL, my picks were absolutely the pits. So sometimes you shine, sometimes you don't.
Hey, sometimes you shine, sometimes you drain, but hey, it's okay, my friend.
Speaking of getting drained, JJ, I'm sorry. Since you're talking about picks and the Falcons went to the Super Bowl, the Bucs picked up Tom Brady, the nemesis of the Falcons. The Falcons are 0-6 all time against Brady in New England, including the Super Bowl loss of 28-3. And we saw Falcon fans going on Twitter going nuts this week. Wayne, did you see any of that stuff going on?
I saw a little bit of it, but you're talking to somebody that, as far as the NFL goes, I very rarely use my head. I always lead with my heart, and I will pick Atlanta to win every game, every year, because I'm just that much of a fan.
16-0, JJ. Did you hear
that? Hey. We got it right here. Oh man, if
they do it, I'm buying you a steak.
Yeah,
16-0.
Well, that's my
Super Bowl or a playoff game. They go 16-0. You can get a steak. You can get whatever you want. I'll send it to you. We'll meet halfway between here and Memphis. Whatever.
Yeah, well, listen, the NFL is probably the only sport that I get the least analytical about, and I've really just been a Falcons fan ever since 1980, and I've stuck with them and been a diehard fan ever since. So, other sports, NASCAR, NCAA basketball, NCAA football, or hockey, I get a little bit more realistic about, but is NFL football, I've always stuck with the Falcons no matter what.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that, man. I'm right there with you, Wayne. I'm ride or die, red or black, college or pro, my friend.
He's not lying there. He's definitely not lying there. Wayne, what else is on your mind?
Well, nothing else. The motorsport stuff has come to a screeching halt. They could the way that sport is organized and run, they could probably just vacate the whole season this year and pick back up next year, and it really not affect those teams as much. The only ones that would get hurt in that would be advertisers as far as TV, but they've got the ability to run old races, nostalgic races that people, especially me, would watch and people could advertise on.
I know a lot of people are watching bowling and all these other sports worldwide trying to get their fix. And so it's going to be crazy to see what happens. I think NASCAR is like baseball. They're outdoors. I personally thought they could have gone on a little longer than the other sports without fans in the stands, of course, but they went ahead and halted it as well. But I'm dying for anything. I think if NASCAR came back on, they'd have a boost in the ratings real quick. So maybe we'll see some of that. Well, Wayne, we definitely appreciate you coming on, man. We're running up towards the end here. We always appreciate you for coming on the show and giving us your insight. Any final thoughts real fast?
No, listen, I appreciate you all for keeping me informed through Twitter on everything that's going on. Especially Todd, you tweet a lot of important facts that I get to catalog and use myself. So I appreciate that.
Oh, sir, absolutely, Wayne. And I appreciate you being a friend of the show. And thanks for calling in. That's Wayne from Memphis, a friend of the show. And JJ, we love Wayne's contributions up and down. He helps us out even on Twitter on his own time. And that's wonderful. JJ, let's transition back to the NFL. And, we talked a little bit with the new CBA in place. I kind of got ahead of myself there. I wanted to. I did it on purpose because I knew that time would be up against it later. And we talked about the Falcons draft needs a little bit. As you mentioned, DeAndre Swift from
the University of Georgia.
Thank you. And now let's dig in a little bit deeper. Say they don't draft Swift in the first round and they go with defensive end. I'm looking at the kid from Iowa, A.J. Espinoza. Who are you looking at?
You got to think A.J. Espinoza, whatever he is. We'll figure out the correct pronunciation as
it is Espinoza.
But the edge rusher defensive end out of Iowa.
I'm dying here, man. Sorry, Espinoza. Go ahead.
Espinoza. I think he's your number one if they don't go Swift. But right now, I'm clearly locked on DeAndre Swift. I think he's the best player available at 16, if he is, of course, available. You got to get a healthy running back on this roster. No Ito Smith, no Devontae Freeman now. Got to get a running back. If they don't go that route, Espinoza or Clavion Chason out of LSU as well. Another edge rusher. Guys who flat out play ball. I'd be totally fine with any one of those guys. Another guy they talked about getting, but now it's probably pushed off even more with the signing of Dante Fowler, is Javon Kinlaw out of South Carolina. Those are three other guys that you could look at. But I do think I think we agree on this one. If not DeAndre Swift, I think A.J. Espinoza out of the Iowa University, a Hawkeye.
A Hawkeye, as Brent Muster would say, the Hawkeyes.
The Hawkeyes.
So, the Hawkeyes. All right, my sleeper in the first round is the linebacker out of Clemson, Isaiah Simmons. We've seen him play here in the Southeast a million times. He's pretty versatile. He can probably play safety. He can play linebacker. They move him up front. That, to me, is a wild card pick. I do agree with you. I think they're going to go with Swift. It would be a Swift move. But I'll tell you what, let's take a look at some other players that, that they're kind of like under the radar. You got to look at these guys, other defensive ends, Houston Miller out of Texas Tech, Elorm Lumar out of defensive end out of Rutgers, another versatile player out of Alabama, Terrell Lewis. And another good back, JJ, if they don't draft Swift, later on is running back Tony Jones out of Notre Dame. You saw him play. He got some really tough yards against Georgia. Yeah,
he absolutely did. There's plenty of draft depth in here, especially on the defensive side of the football. So you can really build your team in rounds 3, 4, and 5. It wouldn't surprise me if Atlanta trades that second pick, tries to get more in the third round, maybe try and get some of those players we talked about and mentioned early on in the show as well. There's lots of draft.
You think they'll trade down? Do you think
they may?
I'm sorry. You think they'll trade down?
They might, but you know me. If anything,
or they could trade.
Dimitriev's trading up to get back in the first round, but it wouldn't be a bad move to try and get some draft day picks in that third round. Try and bolster that team there. Maybe Clyde Edwards-Helaire out of LSU. As you mentioned, he got some tough yards there. He's a great pick. He could go in the second, third, fourth round and be not a stretch, be a great value pick. Remember, Devontae Freeman was a fourth round draft pick.
That's right. And JJ, with the new CBA in place, to me, this was critical. Had the CBA not gone in place, I don't think the Falcons would have been able to sign Dante Fowler. The money wouldn't have been there. The cap is now increased with the CBA in place. That is critical. That only helps the free agency, but it helps in where you're going in draft needs.
You're down right. It does. If those dominoes didn't fall in place, as I mentioned last week, we're not even talking about this. So, and to mention, folks, if you didn't know, it was within 60 players. So you have 20 of those players go the other direction. This vote doesn't pass. So it was very close. A lot of players disagreed. Just a couple more agreed than the others. So that CBA fell into place. It allowed Atlanta to cut Freeman, increase the cap space, possibly draft Swift. It also allowed them to get the edge rusher they need in Dante Fowler, who's going to be a very key role in the Atlanta Falcons moving forward.
JJ, you're going to think I'm crazy. I'm going to stun you with this. I think actually a New Orleans Saints player helped the Atlanta Falcons with the draft to increase their cap by helping getting the CBA passed. And I'm telling you, it was the punter. It was punter Thomas Morstead who said before the vote, right during the votes were being taken, some had not been voted, some had, that the NFL this was the NFL's best offer. If they didn't take it, that was the best offer the owners were going to get. And we're going to lose money, and the owners are going to lose money. And to me, that was critical, which allowed the Falcons to get Dante Fowler. So in a strange way, we can all stand up and give Thomas Morstead, the punter of the Saints, a big applause.
Hey, round of applause. Thank you, Thomas.
Thank you. I mean, think about that. Little things like that can lead to big things. So, I mean, I just thought that was really important. Back to who else? Who's a player you think the Falcons, that can draft in the running back position besides Swift and Jones?
Well, I'll tell you another one. Maybe later in the draft, folks, Rodrigo Blankenship. The Falcons need a kicker. Younghoe Koo missed a couple of clutch kicks down the stretch. Maybe Rodrigo Blankenship, the All-American out of Georgia, gets another Bulldog in the draft. That would be a player later in the draft that I could see the Falcons considering drafting, maybe 6th or 7th round.
Well, you know what? That's interesting. We'll see. They may go kicker, and they may, a lot of times, a lot of these teams don't even draft a kicker anymore unless he's exceptional. Now, Rodrigo was exceptional. There's no doubt about it. I had mentioned, I don't know if you heard me if we got cut off, but, I talked about a running back that they may draft later in the rounds, later on in the rounds. Do you see them? Who else are they looking at besides Swift and Jones? Can you think of a running back that stands out that might be there in the mid to later round?
Yeah, I mentioned Clyde Edwards-Helaire out of LSU. And there's several other running backs down there, but the ones that would fit the scheme best are really high up and available in the first 3 rounds only, I believe.
Well, we're going to see. I mean,
there's plenty out there, though. I think what Atlanta wants is going to only be available higher in the draft.
Well, a lot of times, though, teams will save money and look for kids in the late round. The last time that Georgia, think about the kid from the Rams that got drafted, and he's been so injury prone. And it's getting late, huh?
Gurley.
Todd Gurley, look at him. I mean, he went way up there. The Rams put big money on him, and now he could be on the block. The shelf for the running back, unfortunately, a lot of teams don't like to put a lot of money into it. So we shall see. There's a kid out of Virginia Tech and the ACC that they may draft too. Gosh, I can't think of his name. It's driving me nuts. Gosh, I'll have to look it up for the next show. We're out of time, and I had it, but I don't have it any longer. He was a good back at Virginia Tech, and I've lost it. Anyhow, that's the end of the show tonight. We are finished. JJ, I want to thank you for filling in for me, and then filling in for you. And then I filled in for Stephanie and Breck with the boards in Los Angeles. Thank you very much. I want to thank the Hawks play-by-play announcer, Bob Rampton, for coming on the show. Great job. I want to thank Lou Gammon of ACHA Hockey for Aquinas for coming on. I want to thank Lou, our other caller from New Jersey. I want to thank Wayne from Memphis for calling in. And I want to thank you, the listener, because without you, we do not have a show. The next ATL Prime Sports show will be on Tuesday, next Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern till 4:30. Join us then. We'll have another show on Thursday from 4 to 4:30, and then on Wednesday nights from 8 to 9:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can always call us at 678-280-7123. Good night, everybody.
Same time, same place, Wednesday. Check out TC and myself on Tuesday and Thursday, 30-minute session. Get you one.